Improvement Commission hearing of, get the date right, June 7th, thank you so much, 2018. I'd like as a first order of business to say that we have approved the meeting minutes of our previous Public Improvement Commission hearing, which was May 24th, 2018. Our first item on the agenda is a utility pole hearing on a petition by Eversource Energy to install one guy stub pole on Fremont Street, Dorchester, located on the southwesterly side across from Fonts Road.
Good morning, Rick Schiffoni from Eversource Electric.
I'm Katie Flaherty from Eversource Electric.
We're here today to ask for a guy stub pole to support our existing pole on Fremont Street. This is one of the poles that we previously changed out to a composite pole, and we're finding out in the field that they're not quite as strong as advertised, the composite poles, so we need to put in a steel guy sub to give it additional strength for wind and storm loading, so it doesn't run into a problem.
Composite poles. How many composite poles did we put in, or have we put in?
I can get you an exact number, but I would say 50 to 100 composite poles.
Rick, I think it's a very large number
Yeah.
because you've been putting it throughout the city, and we were concerned when we were putting it. So now this will be a concern to the city. So do report back to us as to how you might be managing this situation across all the babies which you own.
To that point, we do have a current program in doing an analysis on an existing 50 composite poles that we're working on, and I can provide you a list of the ones that we're currently working on, and I'll get you the total number.
What is the material of the new stub pole?
It's steel.
Okay, just that.
Yeah, it's about an 8-inch diameter, 6 to 8-inch diameter steel pole. It's about 23 feet tall.
Is this the first time your staff person is coming to this commission?
Yes,
I think you may
Katie
want to
is.
introduce, because Sheila was,
Yes.
can you do that?
As you may be aware, we did lose Sheila to retirement, so good luck to Sheila. Great person, as everybody knows here. And Katie is going to be upgraded to have Sheila's position. At Eversource, things are a little bit slow, so we take a long time to make things permanent. And we're in that process now. But I couldn't find a better person to fill than Katie.
Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're following some amazing steps, so we wish you the best.
I know.
And we'll be as supportive of you as
shoes to
we
fill.
have. Yes, ma'am.
Other questions or comments on this? Amy or Todd? Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this with approval, but we'd also love to see the report on the composite poles from Eversource.
I'll make a motion to approve the petition by Eversource Energy to install one guy stub pole on Fremont Street, Dorchester, located on the southwesterly side across from Honest Road, with the caveat that the composite pole report be forwarded to the commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you. Moving on to the public hearing section. Our first item is on a petition by Boston Landing LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Brighton, consisting of new vehicular and pedestrian wayfinding signs. The locations are Market Street on both sides, generally at Guest Street and Vineland Street, Life Street on both sides south of Guest Street on its southerly side west of Arthur Street. This was new business on May 24th, 2018, and this is as shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, Boston Landing, Market Street, Life Street, Guest Street, Boston. 5 sheets dated March 29th, 2018. Morning.
Good morning. On behalf of Boston Landing LLC, my name is Todd Morey. I'm with Beals Associates. With me here is Devin Howe, and Jay Rourke may be joining us from Boston Landing LLC. As you mentioned, this is for some wayfinding signage. I'm going to have Devin present the project for you. That's right.
Morning. This right here is the mass pipe, just to give an overall site area. With Market Street here, Guest Street, Arthur Street, the Stop and Shop building, and New Balance World headquarters. We're proposing 5 total signs. There are a site directional sign on Market Street, and a second site directional sign also on Market Street. Proposing a map directory sign on Life Street, and a second
So to be clear, just one question on that. It seems like it's parallel with the flow of traffic, so drivers who are coming down Life Street would not see necessarily the backlit wayfinding sign. It's oriented to where pedestrians are coming out from your building. Is that correct?
It's oriented so that as pedestrians exit the garage, it's oriented for people along.
Perfect. Right. Great.
So the sign is backlit. And just to go over a few other questions from the new business, we were asked if you could provide the conveyor seal. And the details as they show now do not have the seal on it. You can provide details with the seal.
And I'm sorry I wasn't here at the new business hearing, but that's an important aspect on two fronts, since this is coming from a multimodal transportation center system. We need to know that we are in City of Boston and the additional comments. Okay, so please make sure that the sign reflects it. If the commission decides to vote on it, independent, you need to make sure that the sign, whatever goes, has been approved by this commission through the transportation department, because we want to have a consistency in these signs, the way this sign looks versus the signs that we have in the Longwood medical area and a host of other signs. Okay, so just give us, right now it doesn't show up in any of the paperwork which you have submitted over here, but do show us something before you can take final action.
Yeah, the final Mylars that we submit to these folks, we'll make sure that.
Before you get to the final Mylars,
Yep.
get us a mock-up in case if I don't
Oh, okay.
like the font size or something or the color combination. We don't want you to go through multiple iterations.
Okay.
Okay? So give us something that can be properly understood in terms of size of font, orientation, color, all of that good stuff. Okay?
You also got a comment to close that curb cut, and I know that it is not, it goes beyond your property and in front of somebody else's property, but we need the curb cut closed for the length of the wall. Can stop it where they actually have the opening if they pull their trash out there. But where the sign was going and where the location it is that we don't want it to be in a driveway that leads to a wall.
Sorry, Jay Rourke, NB Development Group, representing ownership. We just don't, I'm not sure that falls in our court. I mean, it's the Stop and Shop, not Stop and Shop, it's Stockyard Sidewalk. And we'd have to work with them on that. It's their curb cut.
No, it's our sidewalk.
Got it.
And they have one opening.
Right.
And I believe they might use that curb cut to pull their trash out, but they do not need the curb cut that leads to a stone wall. And the comment that you received from the BPDA was about the location of the signage and the preferred location being in that section that is curb cut.
Right.
And so it should become a sidewalk, and the sign should be located in the appropriate spot.
Right. Who would pay for the curb cut to be filled in?
Well, I mean, you would have to, because it's about where the sign should go in the curb cut.
Right.
Is that going to be an issue, Jay?
Yeah,
I understand. In the scheme of things, I think you can achieve an understanding.
Yeah, I just, after, there's been so much mitigation, there's been a train station constructed, there's been, there's so many things that have been asked for that we've done. I just, after a while, you kind of, where does it stop? I mean, I'd like to think that, things we've done don't necessarily, this is required upon us. I don't know what the cost of doing something like this, I'd have to look at it.
It's only like 4 sidewalk panels.
This is contingent upon the approval of the sign, I'm assuming?
Well, the location of the sign is preferred to go where the curb cut is.
Right.
So you move the sign so that you're not in the curb cut, but where it should be for a view standpoint should be in that curb cut.
see if the stockyard would split it with us, the cost?
We don't care who pays for it.
Right, no, I know. I'm aware of that. I'm aware.
Jay, okay.
Yeah.
How can I best say this thing? In the scheme of all the wonderful work which your team has done,
Yes.
in that totality of it, it is possible that this may be tiny, but you know, if you put lots of little grains of sand, you can create large things. So we do appreciate this might be the tipping point, but I am, because of how well I know you, and I don't want to use that as an advantage, but I think the right thing will be done here. The sign is important. What Ms. Cording is trying to bring to our attention is also important, but I have more faith in you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Just getting back to the sign offsets, relative to, we've looked at that as far as the placement on the sidewalk with the foundation and the shaft, and the offset of the sign as it relates to the overhang. It's not overhanging in the roadway for truck to hit it.
On the plans themselves, they're shown to scale. I don't believe we show
Yes.
in any of those.
Right.
I
Talking
there's no
about the sign overhanging into the roadway, so it's offset properly. And with that offset, basically you have enough width to maintain that 5 foot of sidewalk. Sorry.
Who is stamping the plans? I know the plans are Bills, Associates. Who is going to stamp the plans? You, sir?
Me personally.
Awesome, great. So you will look into what Commissioner Hesworth has
You
stated.
know, I
You
confirm
understand.
they're not, yeah, it doesn't
Got it.
overhang.
So make
we-
sure that it is. Ms. Cording, do we have a maintenance agreement on this LMI executed?
I don't believe it's executed, but,
But we are
Yep.
almost there.
yeah, this is, they already have signage, so
Awesome.
So we have like the contacts, so there's an emergency and some truck hits one of these things, we have a number
We have all
of
their
contacts.
And we know where Jay lives.
No.
No,
They
you
in the
have
agreement, yes.
you have
It's
good
in the
stock value. You are not.
We'll get it done.
You are one of the best. So
We'll get it done.
thank you.
Right. Because historically, it's always been an issue, who does it, who responds, who do we call?
We try to get a position now rather than a person, so that as that, through time, that person, it changes, that the actual position hopefully will, and the phone number will get us to the right person.
I don't need my sign shop going out here because people are calling.
Absolutely.
You got it.
So,
Other questions, comments on this? Name your Todd. Members of the public. All right, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to approve a petition by Boston Landing LLC for the making of specific repairs within Market Street, Life Street, and Guest Street as read into the record by the chair and shown on a set of plans of the City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, specific repair plan, Boston Landing, Market Street, Life Street, Guest Street, Brighton, 5 sheets dated March 29th, 2018, with the contingent on the closing of the curb cut.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So moved. Thank you. Moving on to new business. Our first item is 621 Washington Street, Boston proper, a projection license on a petition by Orange Barrel Media LLC.
Thanks, John. All set for us to start? Great, thank you. For the record, Chris Rainier from Goulston Stores on behalf of the petitioner, Orange Barrel Media. I have with me today Dave North, Director of Development from Orange Barrel Media, and Rick Latini from Howard Stein Hudson. Just by way of background on this sign, the proposed signs located on the northwest corner of Boylston Street and Washington Street, which are one-way streets in each direction. These are pedestrian-oriented signs. The content is changeable but not movable. What we've done over the last few years working with the BPDA is locate the sign to partially screen as much as we can existing building louvers, which are a bit unsightly. In doing so, we've placed the sign above an existing building canopy, so it's above the public way. But in order to have airflow behind the sign, it's set off from the building face a little bit to meet good engineering for mechanical engineering, which is why we're here for a request for the license. We've been through a BPDA approval process, received approval from them in March. We have a license agreement with them that the commission may be familiar with that prescribes certain content, also has enforcement mechanisms in there. One of the things we're particularly proud of is our public and community content. We have a minimum 10% requirement, regularly exceed that. We've worked closely with the community. Orange Barrel won Community Partner of the Year from the Boston Arts Academy for their Fenway sign in terms of buying software for the school to allow the students that are into digital media to actually take a class in digital media and then put their content on the sign. We've also worked with Urban College, who's across the street from us in the China Trade Building, and provided them content on the existing sign in the W Hotel, and they've been very pleased with that. I did want to mention that given this sign location, we've done a robust community outreach process. We do have letters of support from St. Francis House, who's down the street, as well as the Urban College, and I've given those to Ms. Cording. One of the things that came up through that process were some concerns on content, given some of the recovery operations that are going on at St. Francis House. So we've committed to no drugs, no alcohol, no marijuana, no tobacco, and then obviously no nudity. We have provided a draft of the license agreement to Mr. Liu. As we've done previously, we anticipate, and we've included in our draft, that we will do a pre- and post-installation traffic study should we be granted approval to make sure there's no issues with the sign. So with that, I can turn it over to Rick to run through any technical details, or we can answer questions.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to go through some basic dimensions and turn back to the commission. So the sign, as Chris mentioned, is on the northwest corner of Boylston and Washington Street. It faces towards Washington Street. The sign's about 32 feet, 9 inches in length. Oh, sorry, the length's about 32 feet, 9 inches. 32. Mm-hmm. Yep. And the height's about 18 and a half feet.
So 20 feet by 30 feet, roughly 600. You got about 600 square footage, roughly.
Yeah, roughly. And the thickness is about 1 foot 9 inches. The reason why it extends over the sidewalk is, as Chris mentioned, there's a frame that keeps it a little bit off the buildings. There's a louver there. So altogether, we're asking for about a 3.5 foot wide license. Sorry, it's like 3.5 feet, about 2.5 feet sticks over Boylston Street, which has a 14 foot wide sidewalk. The clearance here is over 21 feet, and the sign will be heat traced as typically required. I'll hand it over to you for questions or comments on it.
So I'm sure there's a variety of questions, but one thing that I'm mindful of is, as you mentioned, there's an Orange Barrel sign, which is at the W Hotel, which was put up sort of facing down Nealon Street. I think as part of the agreement for the installation of that, the PIC required the pre and post that you sort of talked about here. Have we actually received the post analysis?
We've actually done. We did the pre-installation analysis, and the post is ready, except we haven't gotten we've asked for the crash data, and we haven't received it yet. So it'll be, as soon as we get that, it'll be set to go. So.
Okay. I mean, I think it's, and I'm sure that Commissioner Hesford is going to sort of touch on this, but obviously the issues that we were discussing associated with the one at the W Hotel is for everybody that's coming up Nealon Street, to have a screen of that scale, sort of in that location. We wanted to sort of understand the pre and post. You have this. Perhaps essentially a similar condition here on Washington Street. I understand that you described this as 4 pedestrians at 600 square feet in this location. You have a large number of vehicles that are queuing up at that Washington, Boylston, and Essex intersection, and we want to make sure that we are not creating any sort of safety concerns at that particular intersection. I'm sure that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've had the discussion before. Obviously we have a program right now, Vision Zero, to cut down distracted driving, reduce pedestrian vehicular crash rates in the city of Boston. Obviously, understanding that I believe, and you can confirm this is a zoned area for this use?
Correct. We're in the theater district.
Correct.
So again, it is a concern for the transportation department, as well as I'm sure many of the commission members, how it's designed, where it's located. What's the screen rate? How often does that change?
It's 15 seconds. There's still images. There's no full motion graphics, which are on some of the signs near the Fenway property. So still shots, 15 second. It's a 2-second dissolve between each image, so that it's not quickly changing the way that a traffic light would. So there's a clear distinction between that and the light where people are queuing.
Because this location is kind of a crossroads. We got a major META station right here. You get a lot of people, get the park, you get the school, you get a lot of, residents, very busy area. So we gotta be very careful on how we design this and, look at those screen rates and what we're putting out there, in accordance with the Vision Zero program and the mayor's initiative to reduce that. So I'll be interested in seeing the same report that
Rick, how quickly do you think you can get the report from Washington and Neeland?
I think the only delay was the person that used to give the crash data had left, so Carrie has actually been calling them a lot to try to get the data, and she's back next week, so hopefully we can get it then.
Sir, I have a question for you. Try and put it in a hypothetical perspective. Right now you have picked something that is roughly 20 feet tall, 30 feet wide. Why didn't you pick something that is 100 feet tall and 100 feet wide? That's a method to the madness, but I'm asking that question in that mannerism.
We went through a lengthy design process on this, including working with David Carlson at the BPDA. Okay. So we ended up with what we feel like is an appropriate size to fit in the scale of the entire building, as well as to cover the louvers.
So my question is, was the size determined by restrictions in terms of size? I mean, if you want to overlay this with outdoor advertising and having that whole brick facade of a 10,000 square foot screen, because the size of these outdoor advertising electronic has changed in terms of the technology that is around the planet. Okay, so in some countries I might see something that is 200 feet tall by 200 feet. So my question back to you is, the 20 by 30, was it determined per the city BPDA outdoor advertising sign regulations and or urban design regulations, or did you all think this is a good size? How would you answer that?
It's both. The particular design of this sign in terms of where it's located in the building was through the BPDA. You're correct in that there are size limitations under the Office of Outdoor Advertising Regulations that this sign complies with. You could not build a sign 100 by 100 feet in Massachusetts. That would not be allowed by the state regulations.
So what is the outside limit through to which we can put an electronic outdoor advertising sign which makes more revenue than a static outdoor advertising sign?
I don't know the dimensions off the top of my head from the OOA regulations, but I can get that to you.
Could you please, so that way we can understand whether we are skirting with the outer edges of those regulations, or are we maxing it? Because we appreciate the work which you have done at the other location, which has a higher vehicular, but this is a huge pedestrian corridor. In terms of ad revenue, I'm going to assume this is more attractive than elsewhere, and this is not it is not within the purview of this commission to entertain how much money is being made, but it is good for us to know the value of this space as it is being utilized by you for the purpose of gaining revenue for you, okay? Because it is still public space. The space this commission have a right to figure out whether we want to give 10 square footage or 200 square feet. Okay.
Well, I'll get that to you.
Thank you.
And you have an existing agreement with the BRA?
Correct.
All right. Do we have a copy of that? Could you forward that to the commission?
We will.
The content of the sign, is it purely advertisements?
No, there's as I was saying, a minimum 10% requirement for community.
For the host community.
So Amber Alerts, real-time MBTA information. If there's the Midtown Park Plaza Neighborhood Association was having a meeting, they could put that up there. If the Chinatown Neighborhood Council was having a meeting, the mayor's office, all of that goes on the sign. We also have the ability to put artistic content up there. So sometimes it would be appropriate and we've been working and coordinating with the BPDA, the Parks Department. Maybe there's an opportunity to have some artistic content. Then there'd be the ability for on-premises signage, which would be goods and services sold in the building, and then off-premises signage as well.
So are those possibilities of what could be on there, or do you know what specific community messages you're going to put up? Because two things that I would like to see on this is, number one, the Chinatown stops below it. So the MBTA information, I think, is like a must-have.
We do that,
and also like advertising, like when it's election day, voting, things like that, public service type announcements.
We coordinate closely with the city. Orange Barrel's got a great track record of working with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services to make sure that we're coordinating to get content. and we will do so on the sign as well.
Excellent. So one of the concerns also is across the street, the old registry building, that's all residential now. Have they bought into this? Obviously, it's going to be bright into their windows. Is there any discussion with them?
There have been community meetings. These signs, I learned it's counterintuitive in that they're slightly brighter when it's brighter out. It's like when you used to look at your own old cell phone on a bright day and you couldn't see the screen. So now the iPhone sort of turns up the contrast when it's brighter out. At night, it actually turns down.
But it's still a light.
Yes, it is still a light.
And the residents across the street.
Yep.
So you need to engage those people.
And that is important because this is exciting. You are doing this because there's an economic benefit to it, but those that are living around the area may not have bought into Times Square or something else over here. So it is important for us to ensure that the public has some level of acceptance, because this commission is responsible for managing that public space. We are the Public Improvement Commission, not Private Improvement Commission. Okay?
Yes,
so
sir.
do help us to understand the length of the communications which you have had in terms of if I'm living in one of those apartments, I don't want to have these dynamic changing lights to influence the color-coded system I may have inside my apartment. Okay?
Other questions, comments? Name your Todd. Members of the public. All right, so I think we heard three different things. One is whether it's coordinating with ONS to make sure that we've got sort of sign off on the community conversations that have been happening with the sort of residents in the registry building. Also, any similar, I didn't realize you talked at St. Francis House, but if you've had conversations with the tenants of the China Trade Building, which I believe is owned by the BPDA, that also would be helpful just so we know that the abutters have an understanding of what exactly is coming in. Second, to Para's point around how this complies with the outdoor advertising displays. And third, to be able to provide the sort of post report from the W Hotel piece. I realize that's a lot. Our next PIC meeting is June 21st, 2 weeks. Do you need to pull that all together in 2 weeks?
Yes.
All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item of business is 5278 Arlington Street, Boston proper, a Sidewalk Cafe license on a petition by the Starbucks Coffee Company.
Good morning, my name is Patrick Mahoney. I'm the attorney on behalf of Starbucks. With me today is land surveyor George Collins. We are proposing a Sidewalk Cafe outdoor seating permit. With the application, I believe submitted the required documents. George, you want to take us through the
Yes,
presentation?
as you can see the plan here, we're proposing 5 tables, 10 seats, 1 handicap. We've had a pedestrian study done and approved for the volume of pedestrian traffic on the sidewalk, and we have a 36-inch accessible route for the sidewalk. This is for the access to the cafe. The seating will be from the inside of the cafe. They'll go into the foyer, come outside, and then access the cafe that way. There'll be no access from the inside of the building to the cafe. The only access to the cafe will be through the entrance on the sidewalk.
It looks like it preserves a clear path of travel for pedestrians throughout. In this stretch of Arlington, the curb will, it is a no stopping, no standing. Is that right, Eddie?
That's correct.
You have a curb cut or a ramp that
Yeah,
goes to where?
ADA ramp right here.
Yep.
So that is for the ADA vehicles that
No pedestrian travel.
Pedestrian only.
Yeah.
you lost me. So is there a crosswalk over there? Okay, where are my little gizmos? Give me a second, I'll catch up.
Sure, yeah.
Without killing you. Okay, right there. Do we have a crosswalk, or are these, sometimes we have ADA parking which allows us to have a ramp. So what's happening over here?
There's no crosswalk.
They're
No
just
crosswalk?
there. Just like, there's no crosswalk, it's just that
Okay.
it's shown
There's
there.
no parking, no vehicle access. There is an indentation in the curb.
Amy, do
Existing.
we know whether this ramp was put there to support prior on-street ADA, not ADA, handicap parking? Because in years past, we used to have,
It was probably for pickup drop-off for that building entrance.
Which was recently, that sidewalk work was probably 2 years ago,
All brand new and all
Yeah, it
brand
looks
new
brand new.
homes.
but I'm not quite sure why.
Why is
I can
that?
see, they have special events at the building, and we sometimes use that curb for, the president comes in on town quite often. Not the current president, but the previous presidents, stuff like that. But that was,
just trying to understand the dynamics of that ramp with what you are doing over there. No fouls.
do you have approval from the building ownership, Sunstone?
We do, we have a lease. It's been submitted with the application.
Question for Amy and Todd. Once we approve a cafe design and it goes up, what's the entity that goes around and checks and makes sure that they have it the way it was approved? Is there?
You are looking at that today.
It's a great question that we're looking to solve. So
I recently walked past a Sidewalk cafe that we approved, and it didn't look the way we approved it.
I
Yeah.
can answer it to some extent. if you-
So, I mean, it's Todd and I and code enforcement to a degree. So it's a.
We're working on it.
Yes, it's a hybrid process.
Yeah, well, we just got our Sidewalk cafe regulations, like, what, a month ago, 2 months ago?
But I think that there might be some utility maybe for this cafe being at the curb line within the furnishing zone, and that might promote a more consistent path of travel.
And as you're probably aware, there's many illegal operating cafes out on the street right now.
100%, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
To Amy's last point, did you consider having this not be adjacent to the building, but actually adjacent to the curb?
This space, so that over here, that zone versus that zone. So that way, that
That way it's
gets,
a clear path.
Yeah, this is a very high pedestrian area. Our policy has just changed so that we will allow for seating at the curb line. And this might be a good spot for it just based on the high pedestrian volume and kind of keeping the building face clear and putting it amongst the lights and other stuff.
Yeah, that way you don't have to kind of chicane around the street light and then the handicap ramp.
You want to discuss the design?
Yeah, especially because it's not served, so.
Right.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Yeah, I could discuss that with my client if that's the board's position.
That'd be great.
But we would prefer it stay tighter to the sidewalk because Arlington is a busy street. There are large vehicle traffic that does come through,
Good to have
and it would be very close to where the patrons are sitting.
The
So
study was, the pedestrian study was done with this plan in mind, and they thought it was fine, so.
I agree. It's a distinction between fine and sort of preferable from our, which I think, so if you can have that conversation, that'd be great, and move back to.
Certainly.
And you've submitted the pedestrian analysis level of
Yep.
service?
I think you approved it, Mr. Ashford,
Okay.
a couple of weeks ago.
Days go by fast.
Other questions or comments on this? Yep. Amy or Todd? Members of the public? See you in 2 weeks. Does that work?
Thanks.
Okay.
Yep.
Till then.
Great.
Our third item is Quaker Lane, Boston proper, specific repairs on a petition by RFM Block on Congress 1 LLC.
Morning.
Morning.
My name is Will Grosvenor, here representing Related Beal. We're here to discuss the redevelopment and redesign of Quaker Lane. We're currently in the process of redeveloping Congress Square, the old Fidelity headquarters. So that's set to be finished and completed by the end of this year. But wanted to just come in and talk about Quaker Lane and the new redesign. So I'll turn it over to John.
Good morning. Good morning, John Schmidt with Niche Engineering. As you may recall, we were here approximately 2 years ago where we received PIC approval for injection wells within Quaker Lane and canopies around the project perimeter. Since then, we've been working closely with the BPDA and landmarks and other city agencies to come up with a design that is acceptable to everybody. As you may recall, Quaker Lane runs from Congress Street to Devonshire Street, an internal leg to bring it back to Congress Street. It's a public way. Looks more like an alley than it does a public street. So the intent here and through the master planning with the BPDA is to create a pedestrian experience within this leg of Quaker Lane and to really bring some new life and revitalize the area. The driveway, the roadway from Thomas Street to Devonshire will essentially remain as is. Cars will be able to pass through there or maintain the existing widths. I'd like to speak to the materials a little bit, and that was one of the reasons why it's taken us so long to get back to you. This section of Quaker Lane here has these granite slab, and then the granite slab runs through here. And then you may also recall 2 years ago we were here for Devonshire for the Hyatt Hotel where we had some granite on the sidewalk there. And through numerous negotiations and conversations, we have now taken that granite and we're installing it here and in here. For the pedestrian experience, the pedestrian will walk from Devonshire down the existing granite to the concrete. Here we have poured concrete through a curb cut, concrete through here, and concrete out to here. The existing bluestone, which is here to here, is remaining untouched. We're working up to it. So there is, people can walk this direction, but for definitive accessible experience, it's really limited to this area here where the concrete is. We have a variance application in front of the state. They met this past Monday. It was continued to June 18th, asking them for a variance to allow us to reinstall the granite decker here, as well as this existing bluestone, ramp. It's non-compliant, but it serves as a ramp. So this is our variance request. Personally, I'm in favor of concrete in these areas, but that's beyond I'm not the person that makes that decision. But we will know when we come back at the public hearing what was chosen. The next question is, what's Plan B? If the variance is denied, we will construct a concrete walk here, we will construct a concrete landing ramp here, and these pavers here will be constructed within this plaza. In this area here, essentially this is the one we have to remove. We would remove this and install somewhere here, and then we provide a concrete pathway on this site.
Which would be a complete concrete pathway all the way from Devonshire, sort of through Quaker Lane and then down.
And that is if the variance is denied.
And as John mentioned, the dialogue has really not just been with the BPDA, but also Landmarks, because this was the subject of a pending petition. So we had multiple meetings with Landmark staff and commission, and the PIC staff and accessibility staff.
So Landmarks wants them to take a stab at getting this through A, B, and if it's a no, then we have a plan B.
Another component here which has to do with the lighting, the site lighting. We are proposing catenary lighting that will connect to the buildings overhead through here in the plaza area. We are proposing minimum 17-foot clearance, and that is on the plan as well. But it won't touch the public way, it will touch the buildings and hang over the public way.
Thank you. That nice gentleman.
Of course.
Laura's been dying for this lighting.
I know.
Finally gets done.
Yeah, I also appreciate the aesthetic of it. Have you guys had a conversation with the fire department about any concerns associated with?
Yes, we have. So previous to my time, actually, I've sort of come onto the project within the past year, and I know that this had happened 2 years previous. I know that they did have the conversation. John, you can probably talk to them a little bit.
I believe there was, I did not personally have the conversation, but we can check the records on that.
You can just get that to Amy, just to say.
We'll get it for any documentation that we have.
So John, a couple of dangling participants. Quaker Lane, if you could be ever so kind. Okay,
Yep.
no, okay.
Here,
So
yep.
that is, this is Quaker Lane, Quaker,
Yep. So
and
yep.
and all this.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so now we really don't like one of our streets to end up in 3 different points, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie.
Understood.
It becomes
It's a
very
landmark.
odd. What? The street
Landmark.
name is,
It's a landmark, yes, Quaker Lane.
for the love of.
We would like to have built,
Okay,
we-
no, okay.
we'd love to have
No,
built over it,
there's a
We
method
would
to
have
the,
liked for them to take it.
there's a method to the madness. This is still open, this is public, right?
It's open to public.
So with you creating this fantastic open space where it is more useful for a pedestrian to sit out there and enjoy a restaurant or something, okay?
Seating, right.
So I'm going to assume in weeks or months or years to come, you will be coming to us asking to program this space. I hope that is where you are heading. Otherwise, this is a wasted conversation.
Yes.
Right, good.
So couple different things. So the hotel, so this is the hotel, this is not our ownership.
Mhm.
We've already been in discussions with them. They've
becomes a little bit awkward because that is a city street and you want to program elements on a city street. So I would like us to think this thing a little bit further, including all of this called Quaker Lane. I like your overhead lights, but you have very tall buildings. Think about a fire truck that needs to manage a situation with a fire, okay, the ladders. So it has been done in rest of the planet. We just need to understand how it gets done. So, and should there be a situation over here where I need to call 911 or wherever, again, Quaker Lane with 3 entrances can become an issue. These are not hurdles, these are just thoughts which needs to be worked through.
Absolutely.
Absolutely support what you are doing because we, the city, are trying to create this type of spaces of Union Street and all those little side streets. So this is all good stuff. Just a little bit concerned about you assuming that you will have full access to all of it. Please do mind, it is a city street. Now, if it was discontinued, Amy, why can't we discontinue all of that?
They don't want it, and it's a landmark.
Okay, you will. They don't want it, and it's a landmark.
That's all the reasons that we can.
Okay. So try and thread this needle in an appropriate way so that you can achieve this excitement, so that the public feels it is an open space, but a car is not going to come through there and make an awkward situation.
Yes.
So one of the other things is that building right there, 19, you have sold, correct?
We have also sold that.
Have
And
they
that has
bought into
recently
this, have they bought into this plan?
So that just recently traded hands again.
Yep.
So it was originally owned by T-Bow Development. It's now Hemisphere Development, which is a Chinese group. They are still sort of in their preliminary design. When we had talked to them initially, they said that they absolutely wanted to incorporate this retail, and we have documentation as well that sort of states all the the sharing and allocation of costs and things of that nature. But from a sort of programming perspective, our initial conversations are yes, they want to put in retail, put in restaurants, activate this alleyway so it's much.
I'm
much more
hoping that
pedestrian friendly.
the new ownership is going to be a little bit more cooperative.
Me too.
And because the past owner, when you sold that, trying to figure out construction in timeframes was a disaster.
Yes.
So I don't know what conversation you've had. Right now, you're starting your water and sewer work in the alley itself.
Yep.
So I'd like a little update on where we are with the coordination with that property.
So again, so there's actually a pedestrian bridge that connects the 2 buildings that's going to be coming down, and we're actually in the process of working with them, sort of settling on that coordination and logistics, right? Because the bridge has to come down in that alleyway. We do have the retention wells going in basically now, like starting basically now. And so that's all been coordinated. There is some. There's a lot of questions. Again, this recently traded hands, so I know that there's a lot of coordination still needs to happen.
One of the things I was a little upset with is the individual was making statements that he was deeded rights into the alley. It's a city street. So
Right.
To be clear, make sure that this individual knows that there's no deeds.
I appreciate that, and I will absolutely let them
So,
know.
tangentially, is it possible where the new landlord may want to repurpose that building and or seek utility connections that needs to come off Quaker Lane and or Congress Street? John, after you are done building this thing, last thing you want is whoever the new owner to tear that stuff up. I mean, that'll be...
I don't think we're gonna get utilities under these granite slabs.
The retail,
Okay,
the
so
stormwater
it's-
the recharge wells that are being constructed in Quaker Lane are designed to accommodate this building, or actually provide the
Brilliant.
stub for that building.
Okay, so you have the stubs there, John, you thought it through.
There's sewer and water in Congress Street that's available for the building.
Excellent. So the lighting system, that is connecting from building Alpha to Bravo, are those rights embedded within the new deed, or is the new building owner is going to say, hey, you know what, I don't like these connections. So how did that play out?
That still needs to be worked out.
Could you, okay, so that's,
Again, this initially, so Magna has bought in. So Magna's the hotel owner. They've bought into this idea and the catenary lighting. The new owner, we just haven't presented this necessarily to them because there's so many other things that are going.
but you are the one who is selling the building to them, right?
No.
Sorry.
No, there was interim owner.
We
got it
had
all
no
wrong.
connection. So this is 2 owners after we've sold it now.
My bad.
No worries.
Okay. So, John, John, the lights above, are they for decorative purposes or are they for functional purposes? Meaning, is it for the purpose of lighting Quaker Lane or is it, gee, damn, it looks nice? Which is it?
It's going to be, it'll serve both purposes. It will
Well,
light-
be careful if it is both purposes, because if the new landlord doesn't like those things to be connected, then we have a situation.
Is there lighting in addition to that lighting?
Not this time.
No,
But compliance with code,
sorry.
Commissioner Singh, is, we will comply with the code. If
Yes.
we can't do this alternative, which is the specialty, we'll figure out an alternative to
I
lighting.
hope you can find something that'll.
Also, are these lights gonna, like we have a public safety lighting requirement that needs to be satisfied, which probably shouldn't be done in a decorative light, but whatever street lighting
Yeah,
is
when-
comfortable.
When the lighting comes on, we'll have to do a light study, make sure the limits are there, we can review it across the street area.
Well, it's more that we don't control that light and we have the obligation to light the street. So we need the ability to light it ourselves, essentially, from the city system.
Because remember my first question, it cannot be discontinued. It is still a public space. So if I should get mugged or whatever, or if I should slip and fall, it's still a public space which this commission has to manage.
Right.
And lighting is part of that equation.
And clearly, it would be an improvement over the existing condition back there, which is.
Without a doubt. I mean, this is all good stuff.
Yeah.
But,
Right, it might be
but you are creating
better,
something of
maybe
value
even
which is going to draw people. Right now it is a challenging situation. No one may want to go there. But I think the whole business plan is to draw people there.
Absolutely.
So the crosshatched, was it granite slabs? Yeah, the picture in the upper right, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So was it in scenario A, those get saved, and in scenario B, they don't get saved, or in any scenario they get
So
saved?
the proposal now is to replace them for landmarks request. If we don't get the variances denied with the state, they will be incorporated in this plaza somewhere in this neighborhood.
They're saved in both conditions.
Right. We're saving the granite no matter what. It's just the location.
Where it's gonna be?
Landmark's preference would be that they go back in the exact location that they were previously, which is along that path. And this was our concern, with the sort of life safety and ADA accessibility, those types of things. So we are sort of asking for a secondary option in the event that is denied in the state.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Todd. It seems like there's a couple things that'd be great for you to take care of between now and the public hearing. One is that conversation with the fire department, or at least to share the documentation around their comfort with the catenary wires for the overhead lights. The second is a conversation with street lighting, just about what the alternative is, or the sort of the baseline is to ensure that we have adequate lighting on the street. And then the third, obviously, is the conversation with, or the hearing that you'll have on June 18th in advance of June 21st. Anything else I missed? All right. Does that work to get that done between now and June 21st?
I think so. I think, realistically, the fire department documentation, we'll just need to get that over to you guys. The street lighting, I think we can probably get an alternative and or at least get an answer from the new owner on whether or not they're approving of this. And then thirdly, we just have to wait till June 18th. So.
All right, we'll see you on June 21st.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our final item of new business is 150 Seaport Boulevard, South Boston, specific repairs projection license on a set of petitions by Cronin Holdings LP.
Good morning, members of the board. Attorney John Pulgini, the attorney for Cronin Group LLP. With me is Michael Knievi from the Cronin Group, as well as Will Nichols from VHB. Also here today is Catherine Lewis from VHB, Rebecca LeClaire from Elkis Manfredi, and Bill Lyons from Fort Hill. The actions today are relative to, as you stated, a new development at 150 Seaport Boulevard. As those of you who are familiar with this, it's currently where the Atlantic Beer Garden and Whiskey Priest bars are. So those will be raised, making room for this project. The development is a 250-foot building with 2 floors of restaurants and 114 residential units. The project went through an extensive community and regulatory process We've received approvals from BPDA, the Zoning Commission, Conservation Commission, and all state agencies. Additionally, this project has received over 4,000 letters of support from the community. And some of the benefits that are involved with this are over 9,000 square foot of Harborwalk that will complete a missing tooth between Seaport Boulevard and Pier 4, $1.5 million to the Martin Richards Park, 46 deeply subsidized senior housing for South Boston resident units for South Boston residents, over $13 million for waterfront access, as well as over $250,000 for artist space build-out, as well as other artistic opportunities. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Will Nichols from VHB. He'll walk through the actions, and we're all here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Good morning. My name is Will Nichols. I'm with VHB. We are the civil engineer for the project. And as John mentioned, I'm going to walk through the plans with you for a moment. Essentially, our client is proposing two PIC actions today, the first of which consists of specific repairs in Seaport Boulevard. The streetscape improvements, as shown in the plan, consist primarily of a curb cut that's closed, new curb realignments, hardscape permeable materials, and a new concrete sidewalk in the public way. Additionally, the project is also proposing water features at the main entrance of the building that partially extend into the public way as well. Now, over the past couple of months, the team has had an opportunity to meet with PIC staff members, various city agencies and utilities in the city, and we've received a ton of great feedback that was ultimately incorporated into the plan. For example, this week we had a productive meeting with Mike Nelson to talk primarily about catch basin locations, and as a result of that discussion, we've now proposed catch basins that are along the curb line with gutter mouth inlets, which meets city standards. Our client fully intends to comply with BWC standards, and we will continue to work with Mike Nelson and his team to find appropriate locations for those catch basin structures as well. In addition to BWC, the team has also worked closely with the accessibility department to basically define the layout and materiality of the hardscape in the public way. So as shown in the plan, the new concrete sidewalk is going to be a minimum of 8 feet wide along the Seaport Boulevard sidewalk areas. Again, that was to address a comment that we received directly from the Office of Disabilities. In addition to the specific repairs, the proponent is also petitioning the commission this morning for a projection license. This is to enable the construction of a canopy located at the building entrance that extends approximately 3 feet beyond the public right-of-way line. As shown in the plan, the canopy itself will be heat traced and will drain internally, subject to meeting city standards. We have some other details that I'm happy to walk through later, but I just wanted to highlight that in addition to working closely with the Office of Disability and the BWC Commission, or BWC rather, we've received letters of support from the Inspectional Services Department, the BPDA, Neighborhood Services, as John alluded to, Comcast, RCN, Verizon, the list goes on and on. We're happy to answer any questions or comments that you have.
On the schematic drawing which you had, the schematic drawing,
Yes.
can you show the water features and, no, not
The water features? Yes.
the schematic, not the plan?
So here on the detail here,
No,
this is
sir.
sheet 2 of 3. This is
The rendering.
Not the picture.
the color picture. So on the color photo, this is essentially a rendering of the back side of the building.
Do you have any on the front side that shows the water feature and or the canopy extension?
We don't have any renderings or graphics today that just feature the water features, but what we do have, again, is on sheet 2 of 3 of the specific repair plan. We show essentially a section view of that water feature.
We could get those
Ready
to
for
you.
the public hearing?
Yes, we will have those for you.
So that way we can make a proper articulation as to the visual aspects of it. The canopy extends over the main entrance or the water feature, or that's what I'm trying to get at, and how that's all going to play out within that. So
Sure. So the canopy is basically essentially located between 2 water features. Those water features extend, give or take, 3 feet beyond the public right-of-way line. And those features are very low. They're almost like a seawall.
so the water feature, if you have to describe it, it's like a public brook or something. How would you articulate the visual feature of the water feature?
Because I defer to the architect.
Please.
So the water feature is, it's about 200
year round or?
Yes, year round for
Even during the-
as long as
it
it's
doesn't
warm.
freeze. Okay, great.
And then, if it's severe winds.
Absolutely
torrential.
supportive of what you are doing. It must be the second or the third location we have a water feature.
How
The whole-
popular in this neck of the woods?
It'd be nice, that, yeah, very nice.
Scottsdale.
Right. Where do we stand with the Chapter 91 licensing? It's been an issue.
We're all approved.
It's complete.
It's complete. You know, we've had several bumps in the road, but we've hurdled those, and we're in a very good place right now.
So the final step, though, is to go to the governor's office and the governor sign off. That has not happened yet, but it's ready to do that.
When do you expect that, Mike?
Over the next few weeks.
And one of the things that has come up recently, the garage operations for the building access, what type of garage, is it a mechanical? What do we?
The parking system?
Parking system,
It is mechanical, yes.
So recently, we've had some issues with some of these automated mechanical garages. Have you been through the board?
We have. Well, we have not gone to the board. I don't believe we need a variance for what we're doing. We have met with Tom O'Donnell at ISD together with Chief Dempsey and Mr. Donger to go through everything, mainly focusing on the fire protection. And we are working with them, and we're in a good place with them as well.
Brian, do you have any comments on that?
I'm on the state elevator board, as you know.
Yes.
But generally, by its nature, they usually will require some sort of an elevator variance.
I didn't hear what you said, Brian. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It will usually require some kind of an elevator board variance in most cases for the automated systems, but we'd have to see the design first, make that determination.
Right.
Do you have an elevator consultant yet?
We did, and so and that's a very good point. The elevator consultant, which is on our team, has put up a design, and we had communicated that back to Tom O'Donnell at ISD, and it does not look like we need a variance for the system that we're using. And I know, that there are some systems that do require variances to the elevator board. It is our position, supported by documentation, that this is not one of those that will.
And that's from the elevator consultant?
It is.
Telling you that, okay.
There are some very important issues, Mr. Hesford, that was brought up, mainly dealing with, you have someone on a second tier, and there's a car fire, access to that for the fire department. So there'll be sprinklers. The fire department would like fixed ladders to gain access, as well as on-site training for any of the staff that's there, because the unique thing is nobody will be underneath this building except for valet. So the parking garages, if you lived in the building, you would not park your car there, and somebody wouldn't meet you there and then put it on the apparatus. You would be met outside the building, and only staff of the building would be allowed to do that. So one of the other suggestions, which we think was a great idea, was to have on-site training with the valet, so they know what to do, because a lot of it is to disengage the system to prevent further things until the fire department can show up.
Is this garage resilient? Like, if we don't have power, can I not get my car?
The elevator's not emergency power, and it's waterproof entirely.
What I would recommend is that you stay in close touch with Mr. Ronan here, because he sits on the board. And
I will definitely do that.
Amy, on the discontinuance plan, the area highlighted in red, are those steps that are in the right of way? Or the license plan, does that require discontinuance?
It typically, but because there's an actual physical wall on either side, you're never encountering a step from the path itself. Exactly. It's going to be a wall and it would be a gap in the wall, essentially.
Excuse me, sir. Can you put up the specific repair plan up on the board for me, please? Thank you. The curb to curb width, where you are creating this, you're widening the sidewalk, lessening the curb to curb width. What is the curb to curb width at the neck down area? I don't think that distance is noted. What I'm trying to find out is whether there's adequate space left for the city's strategic whatever we are planning on doing on Seaport Boulevard. So what is that width?
You're referring to the curb.
You got it. At the pinch point, you are extending the sidewalk, and you are not noting the resulting. It is not shown up here. So what is that width?
Well, I know that we worked closely with BT to
public works BDD stuff, okay? So the curb-to-curb width is determined by, not by the Boston Transportation Department, but whether it is or not is not the point. You need to show that width so that someone who is reviewing the plans can make a determination whether there's adequate space over here, because this whole boulevard has a median further upstream near the bridge. And if the city wants to put different modes of transportation or support modes of transportation, we need to work backwards to see whether we have created an artificial pinch point. It would be awkward for you to make this investment here and have to push things back for a foot or two because there isn't enough rooms. So could you please, Transportation Department is one entity that gets to figure out where lane markings go, not the curb-to-curb width. So just sort that thing out for me, please.
Absolutely. Can you put the curb width right on the plan?
Yes, and to ensure that the width is adequate for the flexible roadway design in terms of all the modes of transportation that may need to go. So Amy, if you can figure out whether there's...
Yeah, this is essentially the mixing zone between our street and Massport Street, so we're essentially just tying the two right-of-ways.
Yeah, but they are taking it down a bit
Yep,
further up.
We'll find out what that dimension is and where else the minimum dimension on,
Both there and the other crosswalk will be
Right.
great. So.
Okay.
and what they are along the
So that way there's commonality,
Absolutely.
so that the investment is not compromised.
The bollards that I think essentially are to alert people that there's a sort of an active driveway. Can you sort of walk through sort of both what's adjacent to the, I should remember, but what's adjacent to 150 Seaport to the west that is?
Pier 4.
Pier 4. And so is that just, so there is, that's that all open sidewalk plaza essentially to the west?
The zebra stripes.
Got it. Right, of course.
Yeah, it's like specialty pavers behind that, yeah.
Right.
So it would be great just to review the sort of the sequencing of the balls. I totally understand the intent of the balls, but sort of the space between the bollards with our accessibility.
Also, I'm sorry I'm not picking up all these details. I forget the gentleman's name.
Will Nichols.
My apologies, you're bad. This median that you are shrinking, okay, that bit of median, right? Right now we have for the lack of a better articulated word, you got a fat median and then it is thinning up as we go. You need to show the widths of it because there are minimum side widths that are needed. I can't make head or tail per the scale towards the end, whether it is 2 feet or 2 inches. I know it's not 2 inches, but structurally, it needs to be such where that signs can be put up. Follow what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay.
So what we can do is update the plan and show clearly the dimensions.
Right, so, and because at the end of the day, this bullnose right at the end, what is its width? You go from certain length all the way to the end. What is its?
It's basically a back-to-back curb condition.
Right, but you know, you have a transportation corridor over there, snow plows, things of that nature, you don't want to rip it up. So for us to have some divider sign, there's a minimum width that is needed. Do show
Yeah,
those.
so we've actually discussed this kind of at length. We definitely wanted to preclude the, the turning movement out of that
Yes.
Garage. So what we get down to is so tight that we essentially have 2 angled sections of curb that this dies into, just to prevent the cars coming out, and then after that it widens out to hold the sign as we get just past.
So make sure that there's a minimum median width, because you can't put any vertical device on a roadway without having.
Correct, and that exists, but then it dies into essentially 2 butted curbs. So it trails off into something else.
True, but it's a change condition from what's there today.
Correct, it's much
Okay,
smaller.
so that's, we just
So
want
there,
to.
we can put a sign in the bulk of it, just not at the tail end. But that wasn't the intention. There will be a sign probably as close to the tail end as possible as the cube for the plow driver.
Because I think today you have at least 6 to 8 foot median.
Oh,
at the,
significantly changed for sure.
Yes, and then it becomes so narrow.
Yep.
I'm just concerned when we plow the streets,
Right, the
then it
problem is
becomes.
we're pushing from both sides with the new development on the other side and this development, so that we need something, a physical barrier there so
To
that
keep
people
things
don't,
from-
well, we don't want
They don't
people
left out.
left out of the garage.
The plans show the Harborwalk by others.
Yes.
Who are the others?
This part,
Yes.
right
and then around the building along the water. Who are the others?
What do you mean others?
Doesn't the plan say by others?
So we're building it all. So the space between us and the World Trade Center is on Massport land, so we're building an extension on the Harborwalk over Massport land.
Oh, so it's not by others, it's by you.
But it's over their land, so. I
Right,
think
so
that
removed by others from the plan.
Well, that brings up a new point, is that one of the things we talked about is there's two large stormwater outfalls there that are unprotected. They don't have tide gates. They need tide gates. We don't think we have the room in the road to do our typical chamber. And we might need to put, it's likely that we will need to put a flap gate at the end of the pipe. And the other pipe is a combination of Mass DOT and Massport. And if we protect our pipe, they're probably gonna wanna protect their pipe. So we're gonna need access to that end of pipe tide gate. So we need like removable sections of that harbor walk. Something that has lifting bolts that we can take out and remove, repair, maintain that. And I didn't put that in my comments because the plan said by others.
Some sort of a panel system.
What's that?
A panel system of some sort that can be removed.
Yep, so directly over the end of the one pipe and the other pipe, they're probably adjacent to each other. Something that a piece of machinery could lift,
Unscrew
access,
and pull out,
maintain.
yeah.
So we have had a couple of conversations with John Sullivan about that, so it's our hope to finalize that as with the manhole covers before our next meeting on the 21st.
Yeah, so put that on those plans and remove the by others note. But what you're asking for should be on these
I
plans.
just don't want it to get lost in the shuffle. It's like, oh, we thought they were doing it.
Right, so that's why it should be on these plans.
Okay.
The decking is an E-pay decking that gets replaced frequently, so I think the outfall actually falls just about here. And we could easily put an accessible panel that you could remove to access that.
Yeah, something that's heavy duty, whatever this structure is, there's a frame and a panel that comes out. Something you couldn't lift by yourself, and then, again, there's two outfalls, so two down. Okay.
Anything else?
Have you submitted your construction management plan? I know Moriarty's doing the job, but I don't think I've seen it.
I don't think that the final has been submitted. I think the draft has been submitted by Moriarty, and obviously the information that they have relative to their work across the street and M1 and M2 are going to impact it. So
Which worked great.
yeah, for sure. But
Very
I
happy about
think
that.
the final should be in soon, and I hand-delivered the tab to Pat this morning, Pat Hovey.
Maybe you're Todd? No? Members of the public? So a couple things between now and the 21st. Obviously, sort of more during the conversation with Brian around the elevators. If you just add the street dimensions to the plans, that would be great. To continue the conversations around the bollards that sort of are on the western edge of your property, and what the right spacing is in coordination with our Office of Persons with Disabilities. And then to make those alterations to the Harborwalk piece where we buy others is removed, and the sort of notification for tide gates and whatever sort of John Sullivan, Mike Nelson conversation that needs to happen around that.
Great.
Great. See you guys on the 21st.
All right, thank you.
all.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor? So moved.